You're not crazy for wondering if some Southwest Florida cities are totally overrated, because some of them are. And what's worse, a few of the so-called best ones come with deal breakers no one's talking about. I'm not here to sell you sunshine and palm trees. I'm here to help you figure out where you'll actually love living and which areas could leave you feeling stuck, stretched, or seriously disappointed. This ranking isn't just about price or popularity. It's about real-world livability, long-term value, and the kind of trade-offs that make or break your move. Because what feels like a win on paper doesn't always translate into peace of mind. Let's define the tiers. First, we'll start off with 1 stars. These are budget-friendly but problematic, usually weak infrastructure, longer commutes, and major lifestyle compromises. 2 stars. These are decent value for certain buyer types, but only if you know what you're getting into. 3 stars. This is the sweet spot. Cities that check most boxes off and offer solid long-term value. 4 stars. These are premium picks that feel like Florida done right. And 5 stars, the gold standard. This is the top tier everything if your budget allows. Now, some of these cities are going to challenge your assumptions, like which city is quietly losing value while still topping people's wish lists? Or which city is booming with new builds but has hidden flood risks buyers don't hear about until it's too late? And of course, which city is the most misunderstood in all of Southwest Florida and might actually be your smartest long-term play? We'll get into all of that. But first, we're starting at the bottom of the list because if there's one place that proves affordability doesn't always equal value, it's this one. What if I told you there's a Southwest Florida city where homes sell for under $330,000, but the real cost of living there aren't on the listing? For our first 1-star city, we're peeling back the layers of Lehigh Acres, where affordability might come with hidden strengths. Let's start with location, because that's where this story begins to unfold. Lehigh Acres sits about 15 miles east of Fort Myers. Sounds reasonable, right? But once you factor in morning rush hour, turnpike traffic, or the influx of winter visitors, that 15-mile commute easily blows past 45 minutes. On some days, you could be spending an hour or more just to get to work, school, or a grocery store. If you're commuting to Fort Myers or Naples, you're looking at an extra 20 to 30 minutes on top of that. And if you're someone who craves quick access to entertainment, work, or beaches, that isolation doesn't feel like a perk, feels like a tether. Now let's look at the market. On paper, Lehigh looks like a dream. Median home price is about $329,000, which is down 6% year over year. Houses hang around for 68 days on average, and over half sell below asking. It's a buyer's market for sure. But here's the golden nugget most agents don't tell you. Leverage that downward trend, negotiate hard, and you can snag well-built properties under $300,000. Community and lifestyle, about 114,000 residents, new builds everywhere, but it lacks a sense of place. There's no real downtown, no walkable core. Instead, you have strip mall convenience scattered among ranch homes on acre-plus lots. Grocery trips often involve 20 to 30-minute drives every time. Isolation can feel peaceful until it doesn't. After school pickup, evening classes, soccer practice, and a dinner run, suddenly you realize half your day is on the road. For some, that's fine. For many, it's a grind. And then the hard truths drop in. Infrastructure is an issue. Many roads are still gravel or poorly paved. Drainage systems, incomplete. After heavy rain, several neighborhoods flood for days. It's not anecdotal. It's frequent enough that residents install French drains or raise home foundations just to cope. When it comes to schools, it's a mixed bag. Most are in the bottom half of the county's rankings. A couple, like Mirror Lakes Elementary or B-level, but they're the exception. If schooling is important, expect to drive your kids out of zone or pay for private tuition. That $329,000 home suddenly doesn't feel so cheap. On maps, much of Lehigh is labeled Flood Zone X, minimal risk. But that doesn't account for inadequate drainage or tropical storms. Real buyer feedback paints a valuable picture. We love the low price, but not the long commute and bad roads. It felt cheap until we spent thousands fixing drainage and well issues. That's the trade. Bargain today, maintenance tomorrow. But here's a trade secret. Some locals intentionally buy here to save on mortgage payments and funnel savings into upgrades. New septic, landscaping, appliances. It's a strategy that can pay off if you budget it in, but many don't and get caught by surprise. Why does any of this matter? If you're an investor or downsizer targeting the lowest cost of entry and willing to put in sweat equity, Lehigh might make sense. A short-term hold could yield strong return on investment. But for families who want infrastructure that works, kids in quality schools, manageable commutes, and peace of mind, Lehigh Acres may not align with your goals. Saving $80,000 to $150,000 up front isn't enough if your day-to-day life is built on unreliable roads, school stress, or hidden expenses. So your move? Smart buyers go in eyes open. Understand the location, costs, maintenance, schools, and commute. If your goal is to live there full-time and plug into community life, Lehigh presents real challenges. If low-cost home ownership is the goal with the side project upgrades, you might just make it work. And that brings us to the next one-star city just a few miles northwest. Some of Lehigh issues follow, but this city also has some unexpected upside that could tip the scale. Let's see how it compares. Imagine space that feels endless, homes that don't require an emotional or financial stretch, and a stronger foundation than what we just covered. This next spot might have what you're looking for. But here's the truth. There's also a rugged edge that cuts both ways. Welcome to North Fort Myers. It's a little bit wild out here, in a good way. You've got neighborhoods where palm trees and brush spilled out over into the road, homes tucked into oversized lots with a little breathing room, and an older Florida vibe that hasn't been wiped away by master plan communities. Some parts feel like time has slowed down, less polished, more lived in. It's not uncommon to see people out on their front porch or working on their own property. It has that small town, country in the suburbs feel. You've got gravel streets, the occasional overgrown lot, and a few places that clearly haven't seen a pressure washer in years. But you also get affordability in land. For the right buyer, that trade-off might be worth it. Now, if you're heading into Fort Myers, you're crossing the river, Edison Bridge and Caloosahatchee Bridge, both of which bottleneck during season or if there's a crash. There's no real public transit to speak of, and even cell service cuts out briefly near certain pockets. But if you're going north or east, you've got easier access to I-75 than most. As far as homes go, this isn't the bottom of the market, but it's not the premium either. Most move-in ready single-family homes are somewhere in the $350,000 to $380,000 range, sometimes lower depending on location and condition. And that's where the value starts to show, because this isn't a flipper's paradise. Most folks here bought to stay. You're not competing with 12 investors on every deal, which keeps pricing relatively steady. There's actually more life here than most people expect. You've got a mix of small farms, old school diners, family-owned shops, and the North Fort Myers Rec Center, which hosts everything from dance classes to pickleball. It's not flashy, but it's functional. And if you get plugged in, there's a real sense of community. People look out for each other here. It's also one of the few areas in Lee County where you'll still see folks biking or walking to work, which says a lot about how people live day to day. Now, heads up on water. Some houses pull from wells, and even those on city water sometimes deal with mineral heavy supply. So if you notice the taste is off or see rust stains on driveways, that's pretty normal. Water softeners help, but it's another $2,000 to $4,000 to think about when budgeting. Roads also vary. Some streets are freshly paved, while others have been waiting on repaving for years. You'll find inconsistencies. During storms, some of the older, low-lying streets do flood, but not to the same extent as Lehigh. Still, insurance here isn't cheap. Between hurricane coverage and the occasional flood zone, those costs can sneak up on buyers who assume everything is cheaper just because the home price is. Schools? Surprisingly solid for this price point. North Fort Myers High is one of the better public schools in the county. It offers AICE and AP programs, which are basically advanced college prep classes. The middle and elementary schools are more middle of the pack, but not disastrous. Locals have said, "We like it here. It's quiet and there's more space than we had in Cape. We've had to deal with some water stuff and bumpy roads, but it beats fighting for parking every day." So here's the big takeaway. North Fort Myers is a definite step up from Lehigh Acres. You still get affordability, but with better infrastructure, stronger schools, and more of a community feel. That said, it's not turnkey perfect. There's still maintenance, older homes, and pockets that might feel a little too rough around the edges for some buyers. But if you're the kind of person who can see potential and you want value without settling for isolation or totally rebuilding from scratch, this could be your spot. Next up, we're traveling east into what we'd call a solid 2-star city. And if you forgot what that means, think of it as decent value for the right buyer, but only if you know what you're signing up for. There's opportunity here, but also some trade-offs you'll want to see coming. This next city has been growing fast. On paper, it looks like the best of both worlds. More waterfront homes in Miami, a medium price that still feels within reach, and neighborhoods that, from a distance, look clean, calm, and well-kept. But behind all that palm line charm, some quirks that feel less like Florida freedom and more like suburban micromanagement. Welcome to Cape Coral. The city was master planned in the 60s with big dreams and big canals. And today it delivers on a lot of that. Wide streets, fresh builds, plenty of space, and more waterfront lifestyle than almost anywhere in the country, without Miami prices. You can still find 3-bed, 2-bath homes in the low 400s and canal front homes with boat lifts under $600,000. For many relocation buyers, that sounds like a steal. But here's what you might not hear on Zillow. Cape Coral's growth came with structure. The city runs tight ordinances, what you can park in your driveway, how tall your grass can be, even what kind of fence you're allowed to install. It's not technically an HOA, but it feels like one at times. If you're used to doing whatever you want with your yard or your weekends, well, this city might challenge that. And the flooding, it's not just during hurricanes. Afternoon downpours can flood intersections in minutes. Parts of Southwest Cape Coral have updated drainage, but Older areas still have aging swale systems that can overflow fast. Water sits in front lawns, streets fill up, and you quickly learn where not to buy after a rainstorm. Then there's traffic. Between Pine Island Road, Del Prado, and Cape Coral Parkway, what looks like 15-minute drive often turns into 30. And in season, double that. There are only a few bridge crossings into Fort Myers, and bottlenecks form almost daily, especially if you're anywhere near Veterans Parkway around 5 p.m. But there's still a lot to love. Schools in the better zone neighborhoods hold their own with some A-rated elementary and middle schools, and expanding programs like the Oasis Charter System. Plus, for remote workers or boat lovers, this city has freedom in all the right ways. Sunset cruises from your backyard dock, space to breathe, and home prices that still make sense. And not every neighborhood feels like the rule book's being thrown at you. Southwest Cape is more relaxed. Newer builds dominate, and you're closer to restaurants, shops, and some of the city's best canal views. On the other hand, the Northeast has older homes, more septic and well issues, and areas where flood maps and insurance costs deserve a closer look. Local tip, before you buy, drive through after a summer rainstorm. See how high the water sits, and ask the neighbors what kind of letters the city sends. Some areas are quiet, others, you'll hear about violations for leaving your garbage can out an extra day. Cape Coral isn't trying to be edgy, it's trying to be organized. And for the right buyer, that order creates comfort, solid resale value, clean streets, and a community that more often than not shows pride of ownership. But it's not the laid-back Florida of your imagination. It's a Florida suburb with rules, structure, and a little red tape wrapped around your tiki bar plans. Still, for families or retirees who want a boating lifestyle without going all in on Naples, it might be the sweet spot. You just have to know where to look and what to expect. And if that still feels a bit too managed, well, the next city on our list takes a more laid back, beachy approach. It's got older charm, a more casual vibe, and some serious lifestyle points, but with that comes some real trade-offs too. So if Cape Coral felt a bit too rigid, structured, or suburban for your taste, now we're heading into its more historic, slightly looser twin across the bridge. This is the kind of city that makes you feel like you're finally in Florida. You've got royal palms lining the streets, Edison's old estate downtown, and neighborhoods with real history, not just planned developments from the 2000s. Fort Myers has soul. And when it comes to housing, you'll see everything from 1920s Spanish-style homes to new construction tucked in among mature trees and winding roads. But just like Cape Coral, the map here matters, because Fort Myers is fragmented. It's not just one big city with consistent vibes. You got everything from riverfront estates and gated golf communities to areas where you'll want to double check the crime map before scheduling a tour. Let's talk pricing for a second. Median home price is sitting just over $385,000 right now, up slightly year over year, but the spread is wide. Some historic neighborhoods fetch $600,000 or more even without water access, while others just 10 minutes away are lingering under $300,000 for a 3-2 block home. It's not always about the house, it's about the street, the school zone, and how well the neighborhood's been maintained over time. And speaking of schools, this is where things get complicated. Fort Myers has some great schools and some very average ones. The city's school choice program means you aren't always guaranteed a seat at your nearest campus, and navigating the system requires a bit of planning, and sometimes a bit of luck. That said, you've got strong magnet and charter options like Fort Myers High, which has IB and AICE programs, and popular newer schools like Gateway Charter just east of the city. Now let's talk lifestyle. If you want walkability, Fort Myers has it, in pockets. Downtown has come a long way, with restaurants, events, riverfront concerts, and breweries bringing new energy to the historic core. The River District has charm, especially during art walks and farmers markets. But step a few blocks the wrong way and the vibe quickly changes. The city's still catching up when it comes to cohesive development. Gentrification is happening, but it's uneven. Another wild card, flooding. Fort Myers took a direct hit during Hurricane Ian, and while many neighborhoods have rebounded, some are still feeling the aftershocks. Storm surge in riverfront areas was devastating, and flood insurance premiums reflect that. Certain homes now require elevation certificates or come with sticker shock insurance quotes. And even outside of hurricanes, older drainage systems in places like Dunbar and parts of East Fort Myers can struggle with heavy rains. Here's a local insight most buyers don't hear. Not all Fort Myers is Fort Myers. Areas like Gateway and San Carlos Park have Fort Myers addresses, but fall outside the actual city limits and have completely different vibes. Gateway, for example, feels like a master planned suburb with its own schools, restaurants, and newer construction. San Carlos Park, on the other hand, is full of investors, short-term rentals, and older homes. But it's just minutes to Estero and the beaches. The mailing address might say Fort Myers, but your day-to-day life could feel totally different depending on where you land. Traffic here, not great, but more manageable than Cape Coral if you live smart. Being closer to I-75 makes airport runs easier, but US 41 I-41 through Central Fort Myers is a crawl during season, and McGregor Boulevard, while scenic, can feel like bumper-to-bumper nostalgia some days. If you're commuting, plan accordingly. Now here's the real draw, proximity. You're 25 minutes to the beach, you're minutes to downtown, you've got established golf communities, gated neighborhoods, big box shopping, and tiny mom and pop cafes, all within a tight radius. And that blend is rare in Southwest Florida. It's a city that's old enough to have layers, but young enough to still be growing. Bottom line, Fort Myers is a city of pockets. Get the right pocket and it's magic. Get the wrong one and it's a mess. It rewards buyers who do their homework and punishes those who assume every palm tree means paradise. Coming up next though, we head south to a place where everything starts to feel a little more polished, a little more manicured, and a lot more expensive. But the question is it really worth it? We'll break it down next. But before we move into the 3-star cities, I just want to say, if you're even considering a move down here, whether it's 2 months out or 2 years away, this is exactly the kind of thing I help clients figure out every single day. So if you got questions, want help narrowing down where you'd actually enjoy living, or just don't want to make a costly mistake, feel free to reach out. My number's right here on the screen. No pressure, just real talk whenever you need it. All right, now let's shift into what I call the sweet spot. Cities where the trade-offs finally start to make sense. So let's talk 3-star. You're not getting the flashiest zip code or cheapest deal, but what you are getting is a strong mix of livability, long-term value, and fewer of the major trade-offs that plague other parts of Southwest Florida. You still gotta make some decisions carefully, but if you know what you're doing, these areas offer real upside. And that brings us to Bonita Springs. Now, Bonita is interesting because it kind of sneaks up on people. It's wedged between Naples and Estero, and a lot of out-of-towners skip right over it on their way south. But locals know it's one of the most versatile and underrated cities in the region. You've got Gulf access neighborhoods, new construction, walkable spots near the beach, 55 plus communities, gated communities, golfing, you name it. It's like a sampler platter of Southwest Florida living all in one place. The housing market here runs a little higher than most of Lee County, but it's still far more affordable than Naples. The median home price sits around $575,000, but you can still find condos and villas in the 300s. Inventory's up, competition's down, and if you're coming in from a bigger market, this might feel like a steal. Now, one thing that throws people off is that Bonita doesn't have a classic downtown. You'll hear people talk about Old 41 and Bonita Beach Road like they're central corridors, and they are, but they're a mix of old Florida charm and ongoing revitalization. There's progress, but it's patchy. You'll pass an artesian coffee shop and then a block later hit a bait shop and an empty lot. But here's a trade-off. You're 15 to 20 minutes from Naples, 25 from Fort Myers, and 5 minutes from white sand beaches with barely any traffic. Try that from Cape Coral or Lehigh. That said, the city isn't perfect. The school ratings in Bonita are average to slightly above average. Not bad, but not a standout either. The new high school, Bonita Springs High, offers solid career academies and vocational programs, but academically, it's still growing into itself. Families who want top-rated schools often end up looking just north in Estero. Flooding is also something to watch. Anything west of 41 gets expensive when it comes to flood insurance. And if you're near the Imperial River or Spring Creek, you'll want to pull detailed flood zone maps before making an offer. A lot of homes here were built decades ago, and while many have been updated, you've still got to do your homework on roof age, plumbing, elevation, and insurance history. One other thing, Bonita still has some zoning quirks. There are pockets of manufactured homes right next to waterfront mansions. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does create a patchwork vibe, especially if you're expecting that clean, uniform look like you get in places like Estero or Naples Park. But here's the nugget most people miss. If you're not tied to Naples for status or Fort Myers for price, Bonita gives you the best shot at living near the beach without dealing with the chaos, commute, or cost. You've got kayaking, waterfront restaurants, seasonal events at Riverside Park, and a community that actually feels like one. For the right buyer, especially snowbirds, retirees, and remote professionals, it's a hidden gem. But even full-time families can make it work if they're thoughtful about school zones and flood risks. It's not the city people talk about the most, but it might be the smartest move people aren't making. And just up the road, we've got a city that does get talked about a lot. In fact, it's one of the fastest growing and most in-demand areas in all of Southwest Florida. This is a 3-star that ticks nearly every box, but not without one big consideration. Say hello to Estero. Estero is the kind of place where the streets feel intentional. You've got luxury gated neighborhoods, well-maintained medians, and that polished but not pretentious vibe. The price here reflects that. Mid 500,000s, maybe even low 600,000s for golf community homes. But what many buyers don't realize is you're paying not just for the house, but for that master plan consistency, safety, and a lifestyle that feels good day after day, even when you're just walking the dog. The layout is smart. The main corridor, Corkscrew Road, has dozens of shopping plazas, destinations like Miramar Outlet Mall, and easy access to Gulf Coast Town Center. There are new restaurants, breweries, boutique fitness studios, It's suburban, but it's vibrant. Everything feels walkable or bikeable by Florida standards. That said, even perfectly planned developments come with trade-offs. Traffic is creeping up fast. Corkscrews 2 lanes are becoming 3, and rush hour backup to I-75 is a real thing. If you're working in Naples or Fort Myers during season, budget for delays. Construction congestion is perhaps the biggest growing pain here, but the city is responding, approving more turn lanes and widening projects. Public schools in Estero are consistently rated solid to very good, and there's even access to the prestigious Estero High and international bachelorette programs. But the trade-off is that in some neighborhoods, schools are a bit further away, so drop-off traffic can get brutal. Still, for families, this is a major win compared to California schools or crowded metro options. Now, beaches and golf are right nearby, but what's less obvious is that newer homes here are built with future-proofing in mind. Elevated foundations, hurricane-rated windows, and upgraded drainage systems. You're paying extra up front, but that often translates to smoother insurance renewals and fewer storm surprises. One nuance, Estero was unincorporated until recently and still wears some of that identity. There are fewer historic homes, fewer charming side street cottages. This is newer, curated, and polished. If you want character in your curb appeal, you may have to bring it yourself. One more thing to watch, while infrastructure is well maintained, some neighborhoods are built on reclaimed wetlands. Stormwater ponds are beautiful, but during heavy rain, they sit visible close to homes. You don't want to fall for development photos without checking elevation and drainage. Here's a snapshot from someone who bought early in one of the gated developments. We came here for the peace of mind infrastructure, but found neighborhood fees are high and construction is nonstop. We don't regret it, but it's not ultra quiet. That's the Estero paradox. It gives you luxury and systems that work, but it demands constant growth, fees, and occasional road closure surprises. Estero is a polished, family-friendly suburb with lifestyle investment built right into every street. It's the kind of place that doesn't scream Florida paradise when you arrive, but once you've lived here, even winters and rainy days feel intentional and well supported. If you want value that's hard to beat for what you get, this city earns its place on the 3-star tier. Now, Bonita and Estero are often lumped together, but they attract two very different types of buyers. If you're the kind of person who wants a beachy lifestyle without the Naples price tag, let me know in the comments which one you're leaning towards. But what if you're chasing the classic postcard perfect version of Florida, the one you see in magazines? Next up, we've got a city that moves the dial even higher, into 4-star territory, but comes with rare limitations and a cost you can feel. Now we're crossing the intercoastal from the mainland over the Sanibel Causeway into a place that feels miles away, even though it's just a short drive. Welcome to Sanibel Island. Sanibel sits just west of Fort Myers, connected by 2 low bridges. It's not a neighborhood. It's an island retreat with protected beaches, nature preserves, and bike paths that stretch coast to coast. It feels tucked away even when the rest of Southwest Florida is roaring with activity. Living here, you're trading convenience for calm. Median sits around $910,000, while that's down about 9% from last year. It remains firmly in luxury territory. These are homes built to last. Hurricane-rated roofs, elevated foundations, eco-conscious design, often nestled into greenery or right on the water. But they come with premium finishes and island-grade construction that cost more, sometimes 20% higher per square foot than the mainland. Routine conveniences aren't routine. If your idea of an errand run involves supermarkets and big box stores, those are on the mainland. Islanders rely on 2 small grocery stores plus 1 big box stop once a week. And that's if the causeway isn't congested, especially in season or after weather events. That translates into an hour-plus round trip most of the time. You're hoping for a neighborhood feel, but public transportation is non-existent. And if you work off-island in Fort Myers, the causeway becomes more than just a bridge. It becomes your daily obstacle course during season, storms, or standstill traffic. Cell service can drop out during storms. Locals joke that you're offline until you're back on tarmac. Then there's insurance. Being oceanfront, insurance rates here are among the highest in the state. We're talking triple what you'd expect inland, with wind coverage and flood policies making monthly premiums a line item the size of a small car payment. Still, schools are a highlight. Smaller class sizes, strong community support, and a real island vibe in everything from Earth Days to field trips. But if you have teens, be ready. High schoolers often commute to Fort Myers or find themselves limited to what's available locally. Island living also means higher costs beyond housing and insurance. Landscaping on salty soil, septic systems, erosion control, all of this demands elevated maintenance budgets. Boat docks and seawalls, once installed, also need frequent upkeep thanks to tides and storms. Nothing is ever truly finished. Here's what it means to live here. You get undisturbed beaches, wildlife in your backyard, and sunrises that feel like art. You get low density, no traffic lights in half of the town, but you give up convenience. You give up spontaneity for serenity. You sacrifice the quick slam to Home Depot for a slow ride over wooden causeways. Sanibel is not just a zip code, it's a rhythm. It's for people who dream of nature waking them, bird songs instead of sirens, who find joy in slow mornings and wish that building your own dock was part of your weekend rhythm. And for those people, the trade-offs aren't drawbacks. They're part of why you're choosing this life. It's tranquil, purposeful, and beautiful, but it's not for someone who wants all their everyday comforts at arm's reach. And that brings us to somewhere even more secluded. overrated, and even further off the map. Just past Sanibel, over a narrow bridge where the road pinches to 2 quiet lanes, sits Captiva Island, a sliver of land wrapped in water, sunset, and seclusion. And unlike any other city we've covered so far, Captiva doesn't feel like a place you move to. It feels like a place you escape to. The minute you cross over from Sanibel, it hits different. No traffic lights, no sidewalks, no strip malls or office parks, just lush greenery, weather-worn beach homes, and driveways lined with kayaks instead of cars. If Sanibel is quiet, Captiva is silent, a luxury resort hidden in plain sight. It's where people go when they want to disappear into the Gulf breeze. But that luxury comes with layers. First, real estate. Inventory is tiny. You're dealing with just a few dozen home sales a year. Median price, just over 2.3 million, with most properties selling for cash and well above list. These aren't starter homes. They're beachfront compounds, second homes, or vacation rentals generating $15,000+ a week in season. The upside? Privacy. Captiva feels like its own little country. You've got just enough here to live simply. A handful of upscale restaurants, a marina, a general store, a tiny post office, and a resort or two with bike and boat rentals. You can live here full time, but most don't. It's a vacation rhythm, not a daily grind. That said, daily life here can be a grind if you're not prepared. The commute off island takes multiple bridges and a full hour into Fort Myers on a normal day. Groceries? That's a mainland errand. There are no schools, no gas stations, no pharmacies. If you're sick, you're crossing 2 causeways to get help. And since it's barrier island living, you're completely exposed to storms, tides, and flooding. Insurance premiums reflect that. Some properties are now seeing $15,000 or more per year in hurricane and flood coverage alone. Rebuilding here? Materials are harder to get. Contractors are more selective, and costs can soar 30 to 50% above mainland averages. Not to mention, strict FEMA codes, permitting delays, and limited utility access make every project an exercise in patience. Still, none of that seems to scare away the people this place is built for. Because when Captiva speaks to you, it really speaks. It's mangrove tunnels you can kayak before breakfast, it's sunsets that look hand-painted, it's watching dolphins follow your boat home like it's routine. But here's the thing, you don't stumble into buying in Captiva. You choose it, you plan it, you weigh the lifestyle against the reality, and you decide that what you get is worth what you give up. It's peaceful, it's pristine, but it's not practical. Not for work from home warriors without stable Wi-Fi. Not for school-age families. Not for anyone who needs to be somewhere on time every time. This is a retreat. And if you're okay living at the edge of the map, Captiva might be the paradise you've been searching for. But if that sounds like too much distance between you and everyday life, our next city might be your sweet spot. Still upscale, still beachy, but with a little more access and a lot more community. Let's head there next. Now we've come to the very top. This is the only city in all of Southwest Florida that earned a 5-star rating, not just because of price or prestige, but because it consistently ranks high in almost everything that matters. Safety, beauty, lifestyle, future-proofing, and the kind of infrastructure that actually holds up over time. 5-star cities are rare. They're not just desirable, they're resilient. They tend to hold their value even in down markets, attract long-term investment, and give homeowners the closest thing to peace of mind you can get in a world that doesn't offer much of it. In this next city, it's the textbook example. We're heading back to the mainland, down past Bonita Springs, and deeper into the Gulf Coast crown jewel. We're talking about Naples. Now you've probably heard the name before, maybe seen the beaches on a postcard, or heard stories about the gated golf communities and luxury shopping. But the deeper truth about Naples is that it's not just polished, it's protective, especially if you're thinking long-term. This city is where money goes to stay safe, not just for the ultra-wealthy, but for buyers who are serious about preserving value, avoiding flood zones, and living in a place that's as functional as it is beautiful. Let's talk appreciation. Naples homes recovered faster than any other city in the region after the 2008 housing crash. And when Hurricane Ian hit, prices barely dipped, then rebounded faster than surrounding areas. Over the last decade, Naples has averaged 6 to 8% annual appreciation, with some pockets seeing double-digit growth. Even when other cities in Florida plateau or slip, Naples tends to level off gently, not crash. That's the power of demand and durability. Now, yes, the homes are pricey. Median price is sitting in the 600,000s, and it climbs faster the closer you get to the coast. But inland Naples has quietly built out some of the most well-planned communities in the region. Think newer construction, better elevation, top-rated schools, and amenities that feel like a 5-star resort. These aren't slapped together spec builds. They're part of thoughtfully designed master plans that just work. And when you walk into a home in Naples, you feel it. Impact windows, solid roofs, superior drainage, and homes that meet or exceed current building codes, even the ones most buyers don't know to ask about. Now, of course, you're going to feel it in the wallet. Insurance, taxes, and remodel costs are real here. And good contractors aren't exactly begging for business because Naples sets the bar high. But in exchange, you get some of the best infrastructure, code compliance, and neighborhood stability money can buy. Traffic, yeah, it picks up during season, but Naples handles it better than most. Roads are wide, signage is clear. There's less of that stop and go chaos you get in Cape Coral or downtown Fort Myers. And whether you're running errands or hosting out-of-town guests, the experience is just easier. Tin City offers a charming, walkable downtown feel. Naples Airport adds convenience for frequent flyers, and even the grocery stores feel more dialed in. So when people ask, is Naples really worth it? That depends on what you value, because this isn't the city where you chase a deal. This is a city where you protect your investment, plug into a more elevated lifestyle, and actually feel the difference day to day. Now, earlier I told you this video was going to challenge some assumptions. And for a lot of people, Naples is the biggest one, because this city isn't just for retirees or snowbirds. It's for families who want strong schools and safe neighborhoods. It's for professionals who want stability. And it's for anyone who's tired of the emotional roller coaster of wondering if their home is going to lose value, flood, or fall apart in the next big storm. Naples isn't just popular, it's proven. And for the right kind of buyer, it might just be the smartest long-term play of them all. Because knowing which city is best isn't just about median prices or school ratings. It's about matching your lifestyle, your timing, and your long-term goals with what each city actually feels like to live in. If you're trying to figure that out, one of the best things you can do is dig deeper. Not just into the numbers, but into what locals actually experience day to day. That's why I built a full relocation kit. It's based on the real questions and situations my clients have faced when moving here, and it's designed to help you make sense of everything: schools, insurance, traffic, even where to avoid. You'll find the link below. Or if you're further along and already narrowing things down, you'll see my contact info below too. Reach out whenever it makes sense. I'd be happy to help you think it through. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one, but until then, stay safe, stay positive, and more importantly, stay free.